We appreciate you watching and listening to The Dead Jeff Show. Please like and subscribe and tune in for more videos. It's another great day to be alive on The Dead Jeff Show. I'm Jeff. That's Nick. Come on in, everybody. Welcome in. Listen, Nick, hope you're doing well. Hope you're buckled in because we've got a lot of Cowboys stuff to talk about, a lot of activity since we've been on last episode. And so I'm strapped in and ready to go. I hope you are. And as we told you before, the maestro is he'll be in and out on different shows. He will not be on this show. He's going to be behind the scenes editing clips. So Nick, how you doing, brother? You good? You ready?
Oh man, I'm ready. Just excited about, we talked about free agency and everything that was going to come. Some of it we got right, some of it we were a little off on, and some of it's just gotten really crazy, man. So yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to get into it.
Yeah, let's get into the crazy part first. That's not, technically related to the Cowboys. Have you ever in your life seen anything as crazy as the Maxx Crosby situation where they make a trade for 2 first-round picks and everybody's like, whoa, didn't see that coming from the Ravens. And then all of a sudden, 2 or 3 days later after the weekend, it's rescinded because of a medical evaluation and sort of the chaos that ensued after that. Have you ever seen anything like that in your life?
The only thing that even comes close, and shout out you because you're the one that reminded me of it, was the Chris Paul deal way back in the NBA. And that was when the NBA was controlling the New Orleans Hornets, I think it was then. That's the only thing that comes close. But if you look at the compensation package around that deal, it really isn't even. It's really not close. This is 2 first-round picks, one of which is the 14th overall pick. That is wild, man. It is absolutely insane.
Yeah, I think the Chris Paul trade was vetoed because of competitive balance or something weird like that.
Right.
That's when the league was controlling the team as they looked for a new owner. And so that was crazy, but this is a little bit crazy. I mean, we say crazy like 4 more times, we might set a record here, but I couldn't believe this news. First of all, I heard that the Ravens were sending 2 first-round picks. I thought that was a little steep price for them to pay since they've never given up a first-round pick for anybody in the history of their franchise. And here they go giving up 2. And then you're like, wow, they must really, really are confident that Max is going to come back and everything is going to be okay. Now, the interesting thing is that I don't know if the Cowboys leaked this or who leaked this. They said, well, the Cowboys were a close second. They offered the 12th pick, a second rounder next year, and possibly Osa Odigizua in the trade. The Ravens were not interested in Osa as being part of the trade, not just because of salary cap implications and that kind of stuff. And then the craziest part of this is I think the Cowboys doctor is one of the consultants in on this deal. Like they sought the second opinion of the Cowboys team doctor, who's renowned throughout the league as one of the best, and so that just made it even a little bit more interesting. So, but Maxx Crosby, said goodbye, said, hey, Raider Nation, I feel like I let you down. Hey, I'm heading to the flock, whatever the case may be, and now just about face has to go back and the Raiders right now are acting like they're going to keep Maxx Crosby, and we'll see if that does happen or not. And maybe it's just a ploy to drive the value up, and maybe they're going to wait till he gets back on the field and shows what he can do before they trade him. But did you think the Cowboys were really in hot pursuit of Maxx Crosby, or is that them just sort of making good on their promise that they said?
No, I think because of the people that leaked this, I think they were in on it, right? There was too many high profile names, Schefter being one of them, and then ESPN ran with the story. It's so Cowboys for this to be this huge story going on, and in the ESPN article, the only other thing that's mentioned is, oh, the Cowboys also offered this. Like, when do you ever? Again, we've talked about the star, we've talked about what it means, and that's just another great example of it, that in all of this just excitement and everything going on, we know exactly what the team that didn't get him offered. It's insane. So, but to answer your question, yeah, I think they were actually in on it. And to be totally fair to the Cowboys, that's a good return. It was fair without giving up too much. I don't think, knowing what I know now, I don't place a single bit of blame that, like, oh, they should have just offered the other first round pick and been done with them. Like, no, you set a
Yeah.
limit for yourself. It was a fair limit. Osa's essentially, and another team has told you, a third round pick. So you essentially gave up a first, a second, and a second, third in the player that has shown to be productive. So fair deal. They did it, like we mentioned before, just because they're trying to make deals, they're trying to offer money. If players don't go with it, they don't go with it. If teams don't take it, they don't take it. Just try, and we should be at least somewhat happy in that they're trying to do stuff.
Well, and I think that, then it was like, oh, the Cowboys are back in. Oh, the Cowboys are out. Oh, no, they're still interested. Oh, well, we've moved on because we made a trade for Rashawn Gary. Oh, well, we could still be interested. And it's that sort of buzz that's still in the air. And we talked about that last week's show. Like, some people just like to mention the Cowboys to get other people interested,
Uh-huh.
possibly, and drive up the value. But the Raiders are in a really bit of a situation here. Now, they didn't have to rescind any offers to anybody because they spent a lot of money in free agency after this Maxx Crosby trade, was done or on its way to being
Uh-huh.
done, and so it could have really gotten messy for them. And I think this is going to be a situation that the league has to look at with the calendar to go, okay, what is this legal tampering period? Let's just open the doors, right? Let's just open the doors
Yep.
and let them sign on Monday. Forget this 2-day tampering period. Now, this trade happened before that. And it happened, the previous week on a Thursday or Friday, I can't remember, but they didn't do the physical
Yep.
till the following Tuesday, which was in this legal tampering period. And so that's why the chaos sort of ensued from there. Was like, oh my gosh, you know, and and then everything just settled. Oh no, we're happy to have Maxx Crosby back. Max, hey, I'm happy to be back. And then it's all quiet on the Western Front, or the Eastern Front, I guess, with the Ravens.
Yeah, I think that's the crazier thing here to me is you go through this whole end of the season, Max is saying his goodbyes, all this stuff is going on. Obviously, you've got number one coming in for Mendoza's coming in. Obviously, Brady seems to be a larger focal point of ownership group. And then, oh, by the way, they get Lindenbaum, they get Payne, they get Walker, they get Dean, they get Kuntz, they get Hayward, they get Naylor. The Raiders are out here spending money. And then Maxx Crosby, and I'm not sure if you saw this on Wednesday after everything happens, the post is everything happens for a reason. Believe nothing you hear and half of what you see. I'm a Raider. I'm back. Run that S.
Mm.
Yeah.
You-
And then if I'm looking at the talent pool that I just got, especially on the defensive side of the ball, plus the rookie coming in and Kubiak as seemingly a phenomenal young coach,
yeah.
Crosby wins. You're like, what are we talking about? It's insane.
Yeah, they went out and did what he's been wanting them to do, and now there's
Uh-huh.
rumors of Kirk Cousins joining them to maybe bridge the
Yep.
gap with Mendoza, or at least have a reliable backup if it doesn't go well with Mendoza. But the
Uh-huh.
the thing that's interesting here to me is when you talk about the Lindenbaum signing. Well, he
Uh-huh.
was a Raven, and so some
Yeah.
conspiracy theories out there were like, well, because that happened, maybe the Ravens, pushed this. And you saw the press conference from Eric DaCosta, and it was one of those stranger ones. And he's like, "Hey, no, I'm gutted. We wanted Maxx Crosby and possibly
Yep.
Trey Hendrickson too, both of them, which I
Uh-huh.
don't know that anyone's buying that." But and then there was people that, hey, we're done with the Ravens. We're not going to do business with the Ravens because they're being ticky tack here, or it's whatever the case may be. And we may never know the medical situation, but the guy just had surgery. He just got off crutches a week ago. What did you expect? I mean, they know
Yeah.
he's injured, so that's why it caught a lot of people off guard, because there wasn't any sort of misunderstanding here. He just got off
Mhm.
crutches.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's just at the end of the day, if we just kind of draw back into the Cowboys, if you are going into a situation of a trade type situation with the guy that's coming off of a relatively major injury and you've got the timeline, if you're the Cowboys, seemingly and just kind of thinking about them, obviously he's not going to pass a physical in the traditional sense of passing the physical. So these teams that are offering up whatever the compensation packages were had to have known what they're getting into. I don't see the Cowboys landing him for a 1, a 2, and Osa, and then be like, oh, never mind. We'll give it back to like it's. And so just to your point, right? Like it's such a wild scenario, and I don't know if they play each other this year, but man, I hope so.
Well, and the Ravens subsequently signed Trey Hendrickson, and they keep their 2 number 1 draft
Uh-huh.
picks. And the Cowboys lost out on Trey Hendrickson. If they were really in that mix or not, I guess we don't know. But so they didn't get Maxx Crosby. They didn't get Trey Hendrickson. But let's talk about what they did do on the first couple days of free agency, and then maybe, actually what they did before moving up to free agency. Now, I want to remind you, last week I said I wanted at least one tier 1 guy. I really want 2, but they didn't get Hendrickson. They didn't get Crosby. They didn't get Devin Lloyd. They didn't get Nakobe Dean. So, again, it was starting to go. We were texting back and forth going, uh-oh, maybe Skip was right. Jerry has bamboozled us again. But let's go through what the Cowboys actually did. And before free agency, we know that they placed the non-exclusive franchise tag on George Pickens, and he has not signed an offer sheet to this point. They had a second-round tender on Brandon Aubrey and a second-round tender on T.J.
Uh-huh.
Bass, who's an offensive lineman. They re-signed
Yep.
Javonte Williams to a 3-year deal at $8 million per year, and that deal looks even better and better with what happened in free agency.
Yep.
And then we can get into what they did, right? So the first thing they did was they signed safety Jalen Thompson from the Cardinals, which I mentioned last show that I really like this guy. I think he's a Swiss Army knife. He can play DB. He can play safety. He can be that nickel if they want him to be. Is he a impact player? Maybe not, but he's very solid. So they signed Jalen Thompson, and they signed P.J. Locke to a 1-year, $5 million
Uh-huh.
deal. Jalen Thompson deal was like 3 years, $33 million, with incentives could get to 36. But they traded for
That's
Rashawn
right.
Gary before all that. And so when they didn't get the Crosby trade worked out, they immediately went back to Green Bay, who I guess it's like the Cowboys and Green Bay love each other here with these transactions. They traded for Rashawn Gary, and, that's mixed reactions. But they're active here. They're doing things. We haven't seen this in the past. And I don't want to justify them losing out on tier 1 guys, but this is more activity than we've seen from them. And it's solid players, solid people that can improve the depth on your team. I don't know that they blow us away with wow factor and sudden impact players, but players that can contribute and contribute consistently.
Yeah, for sure. I think on the Rashawn Gary deal, one of the things that most people that I kind of was watching and reading was around the contract. He was owed $18 million this coming up season. That was a big number. And we all know everyone does kind of cap gymnastics. In case anyone hasn't seen it yet, they did rework the deal, kicking stuff down the road, doing all the, like I said, the kind of cap gymnastics. And so he'll only count 5.4 against the cap this year. That was pretty good. Now, again, usually these deals kind of will eventually kind of catch up to you just in terms of there's a year of we've got to either eat some dead money or we got a player that's probably not nearly worth what his cap hit's going to be. But I'd like to say Dallas has done a pretty good job of worrying about those things later and it not really catching up to him. So I'm okay with that. I really like the Jalen Thompson deal, and more than that, the PJ Locke deal. My only concern about PJ is, and I understand why it's a 1-year deal, but it's a 29-year-old player on a 1-year deal. If he comes out and has a phenomenal season, which he is very capable of, especially with Christian Parker, kind of sucks that you're going to have to then figure this out all again next year. But yeah, I mean, look, I think in the grand scheme of things for me, just to kind of summarize it from my perspective, like you said before, no tier 1s. And I think that is objectively true. Jalen Thompson is really good. He's not a tier 1 player. I would say they've signed a few tier 2 players. Obviously, the Javonte Williams deal is really nice. Hopefully, they can figure out GP. I would say if I look at the last 5 years, now this is the low bar, so don't kill me. But if I look at the last 5 years, this has been one of the better probably the best offseason of the last 5 years for the Cowboys.
No, I would agree, they made a couple other trades I want to bring up at this point. You mentioned it earlier, Osa Odigizua for a third-round pick, number 92 overall in the draft. Didn't have a third round
Yep.
or fourth round pick. A second or third round pick coming into this draft.
Yep.
Now we have a third round back. They also traded Solomon Thomas for basically a seventh round pick swap. So they moved up 5 or 7 spots and gave away their seventh pick and Solomon Thomas to do that. A couple of just minor things so we can get all these out and talk about them at will. They re-signed Sam Williams to a 1-year deal. They signed Kobe Durant, who is a solid corner, outside corner, who's productive and consistent. Not a high impact guy, but somebody who's better than some of the depth that we had here. And he could potentially start, right? He's a starter. Tyra Sweet, they signed at edge on a 1-year deal. Defensive tackle, Agbanya. I don't know. Again, names. It's a name game. Then they signed QB Sam Howell and offensive guard Matt Hennessy, or offensive lineman Matt Hennessy. And all these were 1-year deals, which is interesting, right? They're loose with their commitments. I guess they're dating, not married yet to these players. And I think the thing that I look at here is they're converting from the 4-3 to the 3-4, and they have a plan. They didn't, just like Cowboys do, let's just re-sign our own players. Wanye Thomas is gone. You have Osa Odigizua gone. And there are others that aren't coming. Donovan Wilson is out there, not re-signed. So they're not really just running to sign all their own players. So this is a lot of activity. And you mentioned the low bar of the last 5 years. I think the problem is, and as much as Jerry tried not to do it, he got everybody excited again with his bus speech, his bus talk, talking about busting the budget on defense. And it did not materialize. And so, but with these signings, you said it's depth, it's solid players, and it's different than what the Cowboys have done in the past.
Yeah, and I think overall, you've got a few things out there right now, just by way of either players available, and now you look in the draft, you mentioned that they traded the third round or for the third rounder. So ordinarily, obviously, you have a first, second, or third round pick. The Cowboys have the same 3 picks in the top 100, 2 first rounders and a third. So now theoretically, you've got the opportunity to go get 3 starters, you hope. They kind of say first rounders should be impact players, second rounders should be very, very solid, and third rounders should have a really good shot to start. That's kind of the way traditionally the draft breaks out. So if I've got 3 starters there, through my signings, you've mentioned some names that are certainly depth. I don't think we expect Hennessy to start. We don't expect Wheat to start, but Wheat's a good 3-4 outside linebacker. Hennessy's a good, solid backup, and we saw last year what happens when you got a couple guys down, next man up mentality. You need those guys. You need the guys that you can plug in. And if you're going to go get me 3 more starters, we hope in the draft, okay. He didn't bust the budget. Yeah, he didn't live up to kind of the hype that he set for us because it felt so different. But we may be looking back this offseason and saying, hey, he ultimately didn't bust the budget, but he got us from a bottom 3 defense to a middle of the pack 14 to 17 defense. And I think that's all any of us really want to see.
Yeah, I think that if it's clear that they have 2 goals, let's obviously convert this to a more 3-4 base. And then let's move this defense from the bottom 5 to at least the top 20, right? And give ourselves a chance because they're still betting on the offense. I think if you ask me, I've always been a Rashawn Gary guy. I've liked him. I am, sort of cautious on what happened last year when Micah got injured and then his production fell off the earth. But maybe he can be energized here. I love Jalen Thompson. I talked about that last week. I like our safeties now much more than we had last year, even though Hooker is still here. But Hooker and Wilson, they were just awful last year. And so I like that. And I like Kobe Durant coming into the cornerback locker room. And we'll see what Revel and Bland can do there. And we got, Carson still. And then we got a couple defensive ends. Sam Williams we've known about. He underachieved last year for most people around here. and I don't really know what to make of Tyrus Sweet, but that's more depth. So if you ask me, it's really about Rashawn Gary. It's about re-signing Javonte Williams. It's about getting that third-round pick for Osa. We talked about him being the odd man out last week, that he's probably going to be moved. We originally thought it was going to be Kenny Clark right when the season ended, but when they made the defensive coordinator switch, he likes Kenny Clark more than he liked Osa. And based on the kind of defense they're going to play, Osa was the one that we could move. And so, I think I'm disappointed that we didn't get tier one guy. I was rooting for a linebacker. We still don't really have one. And so I'm hoping we'll talk in a minute about what they could possibly do there. But I'm disappointed because I let myself believe Jerry on the bus, and I was getting woefully, painfully close to, recording a video just crucifying Jerry. But then as time went on, I can't be the emotional Cowboys fan. I've got to be realistic. And based on what we had, this is a pretty good position to go add a few more players and get them to a top 20, top 18 defense next year. That's got to be the plan. That's got to be what they focus on.
Yeah, completely agree. We'll get into some of what we could do, what we're out there on, but I'm really optimistic, and maybe it's just the old offseason Cowboys hope creeping up on me. I can't help it. Every year I try to tell myself not to do it, and then I end up right back in it. That's where I'm at right now. I really feel like I agree with you. It sucks we didn't get a tier one, but at the end of the day, I feel like they've got a lot of opportunities. I mean, just small example, and there will be more of these. L'Jarius Sneed was just waived not too long ago. Like, that's a cornerback that if worst case scenario comes, if he sits out there a little too long, there's just so many interesting things going on. I like the position we're in. I'm very optimistic.
Yeah, and maybe we're drinking the Cowboys Kool-Aid. Maybe we're a little naive. Maybe we're too optimistic for some. But don't worry, guys. There's going to be plenty of criticism to go around and plenty of time to mess this up still. So there you have it. That's what the Cowboys have done so far, and we look forward to any news breaking this week about what they do. Now that we reviewed what the Cowboys have done, I got this question. We touched on it just a second ago, but did Jerry do as he promised? Are you okay now with the words he said and the actions that followed?
I'm okay with the words that he said. I'm not okay with the actions that followed. But here's the thing. I think, to be fair, we obviously talked about Crosby. If we believe the reports, and I do, he tried. Supposedly, he offered Nakobe Dean essentially the exact same deal that he got from the Raiders, and Dean chose to take the Raiders deal. Again, this is all reported. Don't know if it's true or if it's not true. So although those couple of deals, like, I think at the end of the day, if you say we traded for Crosby, we got Dean, and we made even a fraction of these other moves, this is a dramatically different conversation that we're having right now. So he can't make them come here. He can't make these teams agree. So although I'm good with what he said, I'm not okay with the action. This is a results-oriented business. You don't get a participation trophy or like, hey, good job for trying. Doesn't work that way. He didn't land the deals. So I just want to kind of give a little caveat to it. But no, I think ultimately I thought more would be done. And then especially on the back of it, of course, the quote, I like what we got. And yes, I'm sure I'm happy, right back into salesman mode, right? Because he has to know that there was more out there.
Well, I think there's a couple things going on here. Number one, if he'd have just been quiet and said nothing, everyone would be happier with what they've done, because, like we've said in the past, they usually do nothing until this coming up week. For in free agency, it's like, let's scrape the bottom of the barrel. There are still some opportunities out there to make this even better. But here's the fact is that the Cowboys fans, when they get any sort of energy from Jerry, this is what we do. We go to that, most of us go to that level. Oh, Jerry's about to do it now. This is the year. Look out. And then, like you said, maybe he tried. Some question how hard he really, really tried. But I'll just say this. I think if he said nothing, most Cowboy fans would be happy with what they've done here. And, looking at a lot of this, it's not a lot of the Cowboy fans that are angry. It's more the pundits and the so-called professed lifelong fans that are in the media now that just want to just take shots at the Cowboys that have a real big issue with this. But I think it's yes, it's better than what they've done in the past. But it's not what we were expecting based on what Jerry said. So therefore, when expectations are high and reality is not reach those expectations, you get frustration. We talk about this a lot in business, right? We got to set the proper expectation for under promising and over delivering. Jerry, for all smart as he is, has never mastered the art of under promising and over delivering. And I just can't believe that no one's gone to him and said, "Hey, don't say anything," right? I mean, he was quiet for most of the time. And the one time he talks, then he now it's like, oh, here we go. We're busting the budget. All he said was, if I was going to bust the budget, it would be on the defensive side of the ball. And, but we take that and run with it. All these hopeful Cowboy fans, we're desperate after 30 years. We're like a thirsty man in the desert here, Jerry, and we're clinging on that. And we've seen some things that look different, so we wanted to cling on every hope that this is different and this is different. It's a little different. It's not a lot different. And that's the disappointing fact, is it's a little different and not a lot different.
Yeah, it's 100% right. It's again, selling a bill of goods, albeit trying to deliver on it. Again, doesn't matter if it doesn't come true. And here's the other thing too, and we talked about this a long time ago, and I kind of, just in hearing you say this, it's coming back to me again. When you've got these owners, when you've got these kind of larger than life personalities associated with these teams, that is always going to become the story. So although it was kind of built as a hypothetical, if I was going to bust the budget, this is what I would, the if doesn't count, right? No one hears that. No one's going to mention that. And he's lost the benefit of the doubt. After this long, you don't get that benefit anymore. And I don't think that's unfair. I think anyone that still, I don't know any personally that are Jerry apologists, but if there are any that exist, I think you'd have a hard time making that argument. And I think it's a tough uphill climb because of everything in the past, as you mentioned.
Well, and the issue is, if Jerry wasn't so darn charming, now he's like we'll get into some other stuff, but I want to be too negative here, but he's really charming. And you would think a charming guy like that would know how to work this situation better. And that's the thing that I just keep coming back to is, Jerry, you want to pride yourself as a smart businessman and a wildcatter and somebody who takes risk and does things. Well, you have to know. I mean, what's the gambler song say? You got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You got to bluff every now and then.
That's right.
But you've been bluffing the Cowboy fans for 30 years, man. You've been bluffing us. You've been like, oh, well, it's about winning. Well, really, it's about building the value of the franchise and making a fortune. We haven't seen a whole lot of winning consistently, at least at the playoff level. So you've been bluffing us for 30 years. You would think that you would learn a lesson and go, hey, you know what? Maybe I'll just pipe down a little bit and let things play out and then let my actions do the talking. That's what I want to see from Jerry Jones. I don't want to see any more bumping your gums and yappy. Let's just say, hey, let's see what the team does. We'll put it out there and see what they do. Let's let the actions back it up. There's nothing to back up if you don't open your mouth, right? And that's where we get disappointed. I'm getting a little frustrated here thinking about this because it's 30 years pent up frustration, and any little hope that I'm clinging to that'll be different is my own fault. I'm the idiot who keeps believing it every year, right? And maybe I just need to harden my heart to it. But here's what I'll say. Are we better right now than we were this time last year? Yes, we are. Yes. But it took all of this to happen for Jerry to even do something a little bit different. So no, I'm not optimistic that there's going to be one big move left, and we'll get to that in a minute. No, I'm not optimistic that he can charm players like he used to be able to charm players. He doesn't have the charm in the media anymore. People are tired of it. So let's not talk anymore. Let's just get it done and get who we need in here to make this defense a top 18, top 15 defense, and let's watch us win some games if that happens.
Yeah, it's well said. Don't really have a lot to add to it other than to the point of just having him be different as a nutshell. I unfortunately think there's a higher chance that we win a Super Bowl next year than Jerry Jones being any different than he ever has been or ever will be.
Well, on one hand, winning the Super Bowl will be awesome, right? On the other hand, it will reinforce his way of doing things, right? And the thing that I was
100%.
clinging to, what he said on the bus is, hey, maybe I've listened to too many people. Maybe I just need to do what I think is right, right? That's what he talked about. Maybe I've got too many people telling me what to do, and I'm just giving everybody a seat at the table. Well, in this situation, I don't know that that's changed. And here's what I'll say: I was expecting one top tier move. I didn't get that, so yes, disappointed. But we are better off where we are this year than where we were last year at this time, with no excitement, no hope. No one believed in Matt Eberflus. Maybe some people did. We were worried about Schottenheimer. We know Schottenheimer is a good coach. We believe in the defensive coordinator, Christian Parker. So there is reason to have some optimism. But don't look at the front office and the general manager of Jerry Jones. He's doing better, but not where he needs to be yet. So I'm not gonna take it easy on him until I see things appear finalized. Not, well, we were second. Oh, we were second. Oh, we were almost there. Get it done. Stop talking and get it done. Okay. Sorry
Hard
about
stop.
that. We got one more part of this. Do you think there's one big move left for the Cowboys? Do you think that there's something Jerry could do to get us back on track here? Is there a tier 1 or 2 move out there that you think that they're really looking at? There's a lot of rumors out there. I'll go through the rumors, and then you tell me if you think this would be something you would be like, oh, okay, all right, they are busting the budget. Now, there's always Maxx Crosby. That could be still a possibility. You have Jonathan Grenard from the Vikings, who has been wanting a new deal, and they've been shopping. He has about 2 years left on his deal, about $19-20 million a year for Jonathan Grenard, but a very productive player. You've got, linebacker Nick Herbig from the Steelers, and some have been mentioning Patrick Queen from the Steelers, who basically took last year off, I think, which is a red flag. But Herbig, he's probably the cheapest, safest option but that's not a splash to me. You got Kayvon Thibodeau that some people are clamoring for, right? And then you got some secondary moves that like a Bobby Wagner, like a AJ Epinesa, like a Joey Bosa. Those are 3rd, 4th tier type situations. But any of these moves that are being rumored strike your fancy?
Not really. And I think, not that I wouldn't like to see some of them done. I think the Grenard deal is something that, could potentially have a good impact on what the Cowboys do just going forward in terms of the draft. It kind of frees up who you can kind of go after. But ultimately, I think there's unless there's something like just off the wall outside of what you've mentioned, I would kind of consider all of those tier 2 at the most moves. Now I'm going based purely on production last year, compensation that you'd have to likely give up, and then the contracts you'd be taking on. Like if I'm going to spend a premium either through package or through compensation, I would like to get back a high level game wrecker type player. And no disrespect to any of those players, they're all good in their own right. Not a single one of them is that except for Crosby. And based on what Crosby said, I don't think that's going to be going on anytime soon. Not to say the season doesn't start, they get in training camp and things go off the rails again. It's possible, but it's a brand new coaching staff. There's a lot of new players there, a lot of veteran players like Nakobe Dean, who, if you listen to anyone talk, dude's a great locker room leader. The kind of guys that Crosby seems like he can run with. So I would like to see some of the moves. Do I think they're like, oh my God, this is going to totally change how I feel about it? Other than Crosby, probably not. That's not to say that there's not something else out there that we're just totally unaware of at the moment that can't happen coming down the pipe.
Yeah, here's my take on this. If there was a big move to be made, I wouldn't want you to do it on any of these guys but Crosby. Now, I don't think Herbig is a big move. I think
Right.
that's something that could really be solid, right? That's one of those sneaky good
Yeah.
moves if you did it. But I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, I think for me, if you're going to do this, then why didn't you go get Devin Lloyd? Why didn't you get Nakobe Dean? Pay him a little bit more. Those moves are better than what we're hearing here. Now, look, I think Jonathan Grenard's great, but he wants a new deal. He's at 19 million
Mm-hmm.
already. So what's he going to get on his new deal? So that's something to consider. So I don't think there is a one big move left, unless it's again something out of left field which we don't know about. If maybe they are going to be back in on Maxx Crosby and he does come to the Cowboys, that would be fantastic. But I just don't think there's a big move out there with these kinds of names. Couple solid sneaky moves maybe, but not something big that's going to wow us to go, oh my gosh, of course it only takes something solid, I guess, for us to say we're going to the Super Bowl as Cowboy fans. So I mean, to each his own, but I just don't think there's one big move out there. I would have rather seen them spend on Nakobe Dean or bring in Devin Lloyd, or if you're going to pay that kind of money, what about the contract Jalen Phillips got just was absurd. So I think that's I would rather see them have gone after a Lloyd or somebody like that than do one of these deals.
No, completely agree. And you're right. I mean, the big moves to make were out there. Like if you were going to make one of those moves, that time came and went. This is the first day, the first day and a half of the
Yeah.
legal tampering period. I don't know that Hendrickson was ever really, really in play. Um, but yeah, it just sucks that, and I'm just kind of quickly going through on the PFF grades of all the players we've mentioned. Um, Grenard is the best ranked, 31st ranked in edge players, backer
Mm,
or edge rushers. Um, you know, that- that's not exactly my. No one else was even close in terms of every name you mentioned, with the exception of Crosby, of course. We've already talked about that. But like, and then even if you look at some of these recently released guys like L'Jarius Sneed or Marshawn Lattimore, like some of those guys, they actually rated out really badly last year.
mm,
Lattimore was
yeah.
93rd, Sneed was 101. So it's not, again, these are big names. These are not seemingly, I want to
Yeah.
preface this, not saying that they're not still good players. They are just not game wreckers, going to make a huge difference right away.
Well, instead of one big flashy sizzle reel move, give me two or three more solid moves that give this
Yeah.
defense some depth and identity. We have no linebackers except for Overshown and Shamar James. If no disrespect to Shamar James, maybe he'll come alive. I mean, he was a rookie last year, so let's be a little bit forgiving. But we did nothing when it came to linebackers. So it's put us in a really strange situation before the draft, and maybe you're hearing rumors now that they could trade up to go get Sonny Styles or somebody else. To me, let's just do what's right and not what sizzles. Um, and I know it sounds contradiction to what I just said, but I'm talking about now that all that stuff is done. Let's go not for the sizzle. It's too late. The sizzle time was a week this last week. It's not time to sizzle anymore. Now let's be responsible stewards of what we have. So I don't want you to come at me with, oh, well, you're just contradicting yourself. You're contradicting yourself. Yeah, because the situation has changed now. The guys that we could have sizzled with are gone, and these guys aren't really sizzling to me. So that's why I'm saying the way I'm saying this. So anyway, I think Kayvon Thibodeau could be interesting, but he's got 1 year at 15 million left. So I just really don't know. But it's a solid move, but it's not like, whoa, we got Thibodeau. They loved him coming out of the draft. To me, I would stay away from any of these except Maxx Crosby. I might do the Nick Herbig trade for something because I like him. I think he's solid and he's a linebacker. We have none. If you look at his, I don't know what his grade was last year, but I would take him over Patrick Queen for sure.
6. He was number 6. But if you look at the comp and this is why I was saying, like, if you look at the comp package that you need for, it's the two conversations, right? It's the comp package and or the how much money you have to pay the guy after you get him. And although Herbig had a phenomenal year last year, like, what do you got to get to go get that guy? Then you got to pay him. Like, it doesn't add up, right? And not that, I know Rashawn Gary, same thing, but it's a 4th round pick. Like, at the end of the day, fine. You did this. It's a $5 million a year player this year. That's what he is. I don't want to hear about the cap years and all the debt.
Yeah.
They're gonna do all the gymnastics. It's never gonna be that. It's a $5 million player for a 4th round pick. That's fine. 100% okay. No problem with that. Herbig, you're gonna have to give up way too much to actually make that deal work, and then you got to pay him. It's I would love to get him if you can get him for like a 2nd rounder next year or 3rd rounder next year.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to give him up for that. They would want us to take Queen probably, but I'm not interested in that. But I'm sorry to get so fired up about Jerry. I did it to myself. But one more thing before we move on to the NFC East is we're starting to see the top 30 visits scheduling. We got Mansour Delane scheduled. We got Romello Height, the edge from Texas Tech. And one of my personal favorites, Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver from Indiana. So that made things a little bit interesting seeing those 3 names. Anything stands out to you about those 3 names being maybe the first 3 guys that have been scheduled for visits?
The only thing it validates for me is that the Cowboys are likely seeing what I think everyone else is kind of settling into, which is that the kind of mock draft aspect of this is that you are likely going to be deciding between Delane, an offensive lineman, which I've kind of been all over since the beginning of this, kind of saying that's not a way I want us to go, but Delane, an offensive lineman, and then the potential of either trading back or having to get really aggressive to trade up. So it just kind of validates it for me, which I've said it before. I wouldn't be upset with Delane. I think he fits, and especially for Christian Parker, if you can get one of those rangy athletic type corners, I'm not going to doubt what Christian Parker could do with them. There's nothing to suggest why you should.
Yeah, I don't know that Delane will be there at 12. And these other 2 names sound like trade back moves. Like, hey, if we move back from 20 to 24, 25, somewhere in there, maybe that's what they're setting up here. And we'll have to see how that plays out. But it was interesting, just the first 3 names that they released for the top 30 visits. It's kind of giving you that feeling. So anyway, again, I went off on Jerry. I apologize, but he got me again, and I had to get that off my chest. One thing I would like to do that we as Cowboy fans like to do is play the compare and contrast game to our NFC East opponents. Now, we've talked about what the Cowboys have done in free agency. Are there any NFC East teams we should be concerned about? So quickly, I want to kind of go over what the NFC East teams have done, and then we'll talk about should we be concerned about any of them. Let's start with the defending champion Eagles of the division. They didn't do a whole lot, but they did something, which was sign Rick Woolen and as a defensive back, and then they also brought in a veteran defensive back, Jonathan Jones. A couple of blocking tight ends they signed, and then another linebacker with a very hard name to pronounce, which I'm gonna let you try that. It's Ibikiti. I don't know, man. I can't do it. But and just recently they re-signed Dallas Goedert, and he's coming back to Philly. That just happened today, I believe. But not a lot to be concerned about here, I think. Now, Rick Woolen was one that we had on our radar, and we were wondering if he's one of those good defensive players on a great defense that is like beware, stay away from. What did you think about what the Eagles did?
Yeah, honestly, I was kind of, as a Cowboys fan, I was happy with it because if you look at what went out versus what they got coming back in, particularly with Blankenship and Dean leaving, that was probably nothing they got back undoes the loss of those 2 guys. And that's not to discredit Week Woolen, but I think we talked about this a lot last week. It's a good defender on a great defense. And that could be signified by the fact that they signed him on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
They may be saying, "Hey, we don't really know. Like,
Yeah.
we got to see it first." And I think it's the right move. So yeah, I think Philly has seemed to settle into a little bit of this, at least for this offseason, because obviously they've made splashy moves, periodically over the last 4 or 5 years. But at least this offseason, they kind of settle into just they like what they got. Let's stick with it. Some of that may be cap kind of um, a cap casualty sort of deal in terms of not being able to go out and just sign everyone they want. I know they were trying to look at maybe potentially moving AJ Brown if you listen to the rumors, but yeah, none of this really overly concerns me. And as a Cowboys fan, I would say so far, I'm happy with the Eagles offseason as a Cowboys fan. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say that could bring future concern is that they're paying for pass ins this year, and they're kind of lining that up a little bit. A few years ago, the Eagles had the best offseason on paper, and they didn't make it to the Super Bowl. And then they've kind of
Yeah.
followed that up with some very strong off seasons, and this is probably one of their weakest ones, probably because of what
Yep.
they did in the last 3 or 4 years. And so that's something to be TBD in the future. But yeah, this doesn't scare me. And as long as they've got in turmoil inside the team, I'm happy with that. So
Uh-huh.
let's let the Eagles hate each other. Let's let chemistry be a problem. Let's have them questioning their coach. And so the only one they haven't been questioning is their GM. And so he's gonna get a pass on this, and we'll see what happens if they do make an AJ Brown trade or what happens with them in the draft. But I'm not. This does not scare me. And I think that it's kind of lackluster. So we'll see how it plays out for them. But again, on paper, things have looked great for them and not panned out. So maybe this year it's going to go the opposite way. Let's go to the Giants, who
It's
did
true.
a little bit more active, unless you got anything else you want to say about the Eagles. No? Good,
Now
because
let's
I
move
don't
on.
like talking about the Eagles anyway. Not on this show. All right, the Giants, they signed Isaiah Likely at tight end, which is a really, really good signing, I think. They scooped up Tremaine
Yeah.
Edmonds at linebacker. They signed a couple safeties with Ardarius Washington and Jason Pinnock. They signed offensive tackle Evan Neal, re-signed him, or he was there before and came back. And then Greg
I remember that.
Newsome at cornerback, at defensive back. So what do you like about, what do you hate about what the Giants did?
Yeah, one other one that I caught that actually kind of flew under the radar was the Darnell Mooney signing, the
Oh yeah,
receiver. They lost Rondell Robinson, and I think Darnell Mooney, and I followed him a little bit last year, fantasy football wise. And I always thought just the production didn't match the talent. Um, and so I think just for Jackson Dart, you go get a safety blanket like Likely. Obviously, Malik Neighbors coming back, Darnell Mooney coming in. I know they sound Calvin Alston also. Um, all of those are really solid moves. The Giants have had a really good offseason. As a Cowboys fan, I hate it. So again, kind of what do your rivals think about your offseason? All of that to be said, the single best off-season move they made, of course, was the head coaching change.
yeah.
And with all of these players coming back, Harbaugh was huge likely guy. He utilized him in a bunch of really different, interesting ways. Kind of reminds me of like early Evan Ingram. Like Evan Ingram was really, really physical in the trenches, but then obviously kind of had that vertical tight end attributes as well. So Harbaugh with Jackson Dart, Neighbors, and Likely, even if Neighbors comes back at 80%, like man, they got some stuff going on here. And then on the defensive side of the ball, they've had a good pass rush for the last few years, shoring up the linebacker play with Tremaine Edmonds. And if what I think happens is going to happen, and they get Sonny Styles at 5, oof, that sucks.
Well, I mean, they got Tremaine Edmonds, but they basically replaced Bobby Okereke because they
Right.
released him. Now they could re-sign him, and I know some people were wanting the Cowboys to sign him, but so that's a
Hmm.
swap, a replacement, if you will. So yeah, I think with Harbaugh at the helm, and they're getting more Harbaugh-ish players here. I think this is setting the tone for what it's going to be like over the next few years with Harbaugh and the Giants, which that does scare me as a Cowboy fan. I always liked the fact that they're doing goofy stuff at their head coach position, basically since Tom Coughlin left. But maybe they figured it
Yep.
out now, which is very not doesn't make me happy. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. But yes, if you rank in this, the Eagles are the worst. The Giants are second. Probably. I think the one that we need to fear is the Commanders, and we'll get into what the Commanders have done. Do
Yeah.
you have anything else to say about the Giants before we move on to the Commanders? Good,
No,
because
we
I
can
hate
get
them
into
too.
the terribleness that is what the yeah. Yeah, let's see what these terrible Commanders did cuz yeah, you're right. This is the one that definitely has me most worried.
Yeah. So the Commanders signed a few defensive ends. Adafe Owe that we talked about last week for
Uh-huh.
the Cowboys. Calevon Chason also there, and Charles Omenihu. It's a lot of names, man. Then they
Yeah, you
signed a
got them all
couple
though.
of.
You know those.
Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure somebody would say it's not bad, man. It's not a Omenihu. It's a Omenihu. But anyway, they signed a couple running backs, Rashard White, which was a great signing from Tampa, and Jerome Ford from
Oh yeah.
Cleveland. Leo Chanel, linebacker. Um, the tight end from Tennessee. I'm not going to even try this. Okonkwo. I don't know. How do you say his name?
Okonkwo.
Okonkwo. So
Okonkwo.
that's a great tight end. Safety Nick Cross, cornerback Amik Robertson, wide receivers De'Ami Brown and Van Jefferson. So really,
Uh-huh.
really good, not awesome, not great, but good, solid free agent period for the Commanders.
Yeah, and I think once more is although you have some really solid signings there, especially in Chanel and Owe, and obviously by the money that they paid also, um, Okonkwo and Jaden Daniels, right? Like let's not forget Daniels. It was
Yeah.
banged up all of last year, seemingly. Um, Giving this guy a defense and the running game seems to be getting really, really good with some young backs that were not high draft. They're not going to be on the hook for a lot of money in the running back position. Like this team is being constructed in such a way that they've got some flexibility. They've got a very young quarterback that I believe will take a gigantic step forward at phenomenal rookie year, a little bit of the sophomore slump. Um, and then, I think he'll be back next year. So if you're asking me, like you said before, and I think we're in total agreement here, Eagles kind of third, worst offseason. Giants had a good offseason, certainly. I won't even say it's, second, probably in terms of the entire division. The Giants would have the second best offseason in the division, and the Commanders have certainly beat the NFC East kind of tenfold here, I think. These are some really good moves, especially for the construction of the team.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, year before last, they're in the NFC Championship game, and everybody thinks, oh, they're on the cusp. A lot of one-score games that they won. Last
Yep.
year, they lost
Yep.
all those one-score games, and their quarterback was hurt. But they still,
Yep.
if you had a healthy quarterback, maybe it's a different scenario. So Washington, yeah, they're building on that, and they're hoping to return to form of 2 years ago, not last year, and that Jaden Daniels will come back healthy. The only thing I'll say about this is that there's not a wow here. I think you have a couple of
No.
oohs, not a wow. But certainly, I think I agree with you that the Commanders have done the best in the division. You could say that the Cowboys and the Giants are very close to me. Now they have Isaiah Likely, who's going to be just what Jackson Dart needs. So maybe I'll tip my decision over to the Giants and put them at second, and Cowboys third, and Eagles fourth. But I
Yeah.
could be talked into the Cowboys being second. It's not over yet, so we're just ranking what they've done this far. But I think that's just my cowboy homerism coming out in me, and I probably would have to go Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, Eagles in the free agency period.
Yeah, a little bit of homerism in your game there. To me it's Cowboys Giants, or sorry, Cowboys
Whoa, whoa.
Commanders Giants. Yeah, Cowboys Eagles. Now I will say, um, the draft will have a lot to say about this because I agree with you completely. We're talking about what's happened so far. The draft is probably the biggest part of the offseason, as most everyone knows. Let the Giants do something crazy, like, you know, I don't, there, who knows? There's a million different crazy things they can do. But yeah, once we're done with the draft, we may come back to this and be like, you know what, there's a space here for the Cowboys to shoot up to one. I think
Yeah.
the only kind of thing that you're gonna see as a result of all of these kind of draft day moves, unless the Eagles do something super crazy, is the Eagles are kind of firmly set in where they're at. Any of these other three teams are very interchangeable in terms of off-season grade once we get to training camp.
Yeah, I just want to say it's not like we're talking about, the best division in football here. We're talking about
No,
one of the
no.
worst, because how bad the Giants and Commanders were last year, and the Cowboys finishing below 500.
Yep.
Now, I will
Yep.
say that I agree. Let's see what happens with the draft. I'm not blown away by anything that's happened here, but what I can tell you is that the Giants and Commanders got better. The Cowboys have gotten better, and it's probably marginal within each other, like 1 to 3. How big of a margin? You might have a greater margin than I do. But again, we've seen this before where the best team on paper doesn't translate to the field. And so we'll just have to see how it plays out. But right now, in this snapshot, I agree. It's Commanders, Giants, Cowboys, Eagles as far as their free agency period and I guess trades that they've made so far to this point. So we'll stay tuned to that
Mm-hmm.
and see where that goes. As Nick just mentioned, the draft is a big part of the offseason, and we've been going through position by position. We went through the defense in consecutive weeks before, and we'll probably revisit that leading up to the draft. But this week, we're going to talk about the guys in the trenches, the offensive side of the trench, the offensive linemen. And here's one thing as looking into this is one of the deepest positions in a lot of drafts, but really in this one, there are 42 players graded with an 80 or higher, and then there's quite a few more. There's probably add another 18 or 20 that are graded between 77 and 80. So there's a lot of depth here. And what I'd like to do is kind of who's your top 5, maybe top 10 if you got that. And do you have anybody that you feel like is on the Cowboys' radar, or who you would like to see on the Cowboys' radar?
Yeah, so I've got a top 7 for you, and I did this by way of if they were to trade back from 20 and stay between like 20 and maybe the first 3 picks in the second round, any of these 7 guys theoretically could be there. And that's kind of how I broke it out. Because they have a third rounder, 92, I don't think anyone after these 7 are going to make it from, call it 35, 37 to 92. So that was the thought process anyway.
Wait. Let me
So as
clarify.
we get into it here,
You're
mhm,
saying none of the top 10 will make it there, but there's 40 players ranked 80 or higher, so someone's going to be there in the third round. It's a matter of what tier that's left. There's going to be a run on offensive linemen, but you're saying, just to clarify, nobody in your top 10s you think is going to make it to the third round.
yeah, no one in the top 7. I don't. Well,
Okay.
yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, no one in the top 10 makes it to the third round. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So number 1, I've got Francis Mauigoa from Miami. This is pretty much consensus number 1. I don't think there needs to be a ton added here. Big physical guy. If you go watch the highlight tape, man, this dude is a freak of nature. 6'6", 330, and does not move like it. This guy is awesome. Number 2, I've got Spencer Fano from Utah. Number 3, Caden Proctor. The measurables on Caden Proctor: 6'7", 350, and ran a 5'2", 40. That is a big man moving really quick. And he's someone that I think just kind of keep an eye out for Caden Proctor, because if he falls, that's just somewhere where I think if the board falls correctly, Ham and Fano could be someone that go at 12. It's just a feeling that I have. At number 4 from Penn State, we got Vega Uwanye, Isla Samoa boy, for us wrestling fans, and Uso. So it's just one of those best guard available type players. He is head and shoulders above every other guard here. All the other guys that I've mentioned so far are tackles. So if you're looking for some interior play, that's what you get with Vega. Now, the one kind of knock on Vega is that he is kind of foundationally a guard. There's not a lot of versatility with his gameplay. Can't really put him at center. Can't really kick him out to tackle. So for teams that are gonna be really, because some teams really value that versatility on the line, this is somewhere where Vega maybe struggles a little bit. Now for me, and this shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that follows along with us, I've got Emmanuel Pregnon as the number 5 offensive lineman. Most boards have him at 7 or 8. I'll give you a quick little why I have Pregnon this high. He basically came out as a very low, like a 1-star, 2-star type type of recruit. Transferred multiple times. Started at Wyoming, then went to USC, ended up at Oregon, and everywhere he went, he far exceeded expectations. The guy has over 3,100 snaps of college football and went a season and a half without giving up a sack. So I just feel like no matter where he goes, he's someone that's going to be hyper successful. Kind of like rebounders in the NBA. If you're someone that can anchor down and just be that kind of protection, it translates at every level. And his size certainly helps him. 6'4", 314, had like 99th percentile in terms of vertical. And then last 2 here, Monroe Freeling from Georgia. I'm a big Georgia fan. I think Georgia puts out really good NFL prospects. And then Caleb Lomu from Utah, 6'6", 330, and ran a sub 540. So those would be my top 7. For the Cowboys at 12 or at 20, I would look at Caden Proctor or potentially Emmanuel Pregnon.
Well, it's interesting because I think, most people have Freeling a little higher than you have him. I think, I don't think he did himself any favors at the combine. I think he was the one that was slipping out there on the turf when he was doing the drills. So he may, but when you look at his tape, he is still impressive. So I think if I had, I think I have him at 4 ahead of the guard and ahead of Pregnon. So I got Maui Noah at 1, Fano 2, Proctor 3, Freeling 4, and how you say the Penn State guard's last name?
Vega Uwanye.
Uwanye, I got him 5. And then I've got Pregnon and Lomu right there together. But my favorite guy is Jennings Dunker. That guy, I want him on the Cowboys just because of how awesome his mullet was and the way he performed at the combine.
Yeah.
I want Jennings Dunker from Iowa on the Cowboys so bad. I think you talk about non-football reasons why, and that's who I would want. Now, I don't want to get an offensive lineman at 12. So if that's the case and that's what we have, if Fano is there, okay. If Proctor's there, I don't know. Because Proctor, if you look at his tape, there is some struggles that he has with footwork and getting, look at who they're playing too. They're playing some top-notch talent, so it could be he's rushing a little bit. But for me, I think at 20, I would take any of those guys, right? As far as the top 5. Yeah. But I just don't know that that's the best scenario for us, since we don't have any linebackers that we've signed or traded for at this point. There's a lot of time left between now and the draft, but give me, I don't think Jennings Dunker is going to make it to the 3rd round like we've talked about, but I just really like him and the way he competed, and he just he's got this red flowing hair, this mustache. If you haven't seen Jennings Dunker, you need to go Google him, but it's pretty funny. Just looking at him.
Yeah, Dunker right now is projected to be the 50th overall ranked player. Now, we know rankings don't necessarily translate to picks. However, to go from 50 to 92 seems pretty unlikely. And then, unless you drop back into the middle of the second round from 20, you better get a big return on that.
Yeah.
I can see you taking him at like 4. You can reach a little bit, but again, I don't see them doing that for an offensive lineman. Kind of in a similar way to Pregnon, 44 college game, 31 starts, 2,100 snaps. One of the things that kind of pops out when you watch the film on him, and first of all, just the way he speaks too, is this guy seems to be a leader. He seemed like the look does not match, but that look carries him a long way, man. Because you would see him and kind of think party guy, kind of not take things serious, but it's not what you get at all. And then if when you watch the tape, this dude plays through the whistle. Like this is a high motor guy. He's the kind of guy that you want in the locker room, quite frankly. And so although maybe the talent doesn't quite translate into a first round or high second round type player, um, I think anytime you go to Iowa and anytime you can start as much as he has, you got to have a little bit of nasty in you. So I don't hate it, man. I just think timing is everything, and I think it's just not going to quite work out for Dallas to get one of your early draft favorites.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Like you said, we could trade back and it could work out. But I want to, if my computer
Yeah.
will cooperate here, is to look at some local offensive linemen from local colleges here that could be available in
Mm-hmm.
that third round pick, right? And there's a couple from A&M, one from SMU, but I can't get my computer to cooperate here. So if you want to help me out here, I don't know what's taking so long here.
Yeah, so A&M, when we're talking about offensive linemen, just we're on the same page. I am not separating out center, guard, tackle. This is
Me
just
either. Yeah.
kind of all offensive linemen. Okay. Um, Chase Bisontis, I believe is how you say his name.
Yeah.
He's 6'5", 315. Uh, he's about the
50
15th ranked
40.
lineman on the board.
50240.
Yep.
Impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
50240. Um, this is a big dude. He's currently ranked overall at number 70. Now with offensive linemen, once you get into like that 70, 75, 80 range, because you're going to have a lot of other positions that are probably ranked outside of them, specifically with edge rushers, quarterbacks, and running backs. This is where 70 you can really start realistically. He could be there at 92. I know that seems like a far jump from 70 to 92, but if you go look at player ratings and where they actually end up going, he is definitely someone that you might expect to see there. And then if you get just a little bit further down, Crownover, also from A&M, 6'7", 319. He is someone that will almost definitely be there. He's currently ranked at 130, but does have
Hmm.
some experience. He's a big guy, 6'7", 320, and 24 years old. So a lot of experience with Crownover, also from A&M.
Yeah, and if you look at there's a guy from Texas too that's a little ranked a little even further back, which I'm looking for later in the draft. It's DJ Campbell as a guard, 6'3",
Yep.
5 flat, basically 40-yard dash. I think there's someone from SMU even later that we could possibly get in the 5th round as a potential. There's also a couple things I just want to highlight here. There is a guy from um, Georgia Tech that I really like. It's Keelan Rutledge. If you looked at him,
Mhm.
there's a group of them
Yep.
here. You got Markel Bell, Keelan Rutledge, Billy Schruth, um, and Parker Brailsford. Parker Brailsford is a little shorter, but a little more athletic, from Alabama. So there's a group of guys here that you could get in the fourth, fifth round area if you make moves and get there. That we should. This, like we said, this is deep. This is depth, and we're not really
Yeah.
no draft nerds. Like, I haven't watched tape on all these guys, but what I want to say, the quality of players that you can get on offensive line. And the Cowboys have done a good job scouting offensive line in the past. It's not like defense where they've sucked at.
Hmm.
But but I think that what I'm trying to say is this is why I wouldn't do what you're talking about at 12, because I know there's a big difference in who you get in the first round at 12 and who you get in the third or fourth or fifth round. I get that. But what I'm saying is you have very few top first round grades in this draft. And I know that, those offensive linemen are first round graded for some people. I don't know that Proctor got a first round grade. So I'm just looking at the depth of this draft and what you could do later that would shore this up a little bit. And could you trade back and then pick up another third round, which could also address your defensive backfield or a linebacker situation, instead of going offensive lineman in the first round? That's where my brain goes to, is let's trade back if that's the scenario. We don't have a linebacker we like. The safety's gone. The corners we want is gone. Let's trade back. And so that's just where my mentality goes. That's why I went a little bit deeper and look at those guys that are available in the third, fourth, fifth round.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the guy from SMU you were probably thinking about was PJ Williams.
Yeah.
I don't have his measurables in front of me, but I know that he had a good combine. And so I think someone like that, who's probably going to be available in the fifth, sixth round, maybe even seventh round potentially, because of how deep the class is. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm with you. I think strategically, although yes, the difference between Proctor and any of the A&M or any of these guys kind of in that middle of the pack row is going to be significant, that's not an area that you need. That's an area where you can develop. That's an area where you can have some depth there, hope that they eventually come along and become a starter versus needing them to start day one. We've heard the offseason kind of, hey, these two guys that we're getting, this is a little Indiana. We want production over potential. And I think that's what we have to have in these first two picks. And so, yeah, I agree with you completely where you have some ability to get a little strategic and be patient, do that. And I'm on record right now. I want these first two picks to be defense. I just think it's the thing that makes the most sense.
Yeah, and Jerry keeps saying no red shirts. We can't have any red shirts. And now that we have a third round pick, I would extend that to that pick as well. We got to have the first three picks. If they make him at 12, 20, and 92, we have to have all three of them contribute and start, if not start right away. Now, again, there could be all kinds of maneuvering between now and then. We don't know. But as it sits right now, I don't want to take an offensive lineman at 12. I could be talked into it at 20. But I want the 12 and 20 picks to be made on defense. And even if we trade back slightly from 20 to 24, I still want that to be a defensive pick. But I could be talked into, I know this is not popular, a receiver that we talked about earlier, Omar Cooper Jr. or somebody of that ilk. So I want defense as well. I just think that I would not go offensive line in the first round at 12, no matter what falls to me. Now, if Maui Noah falls to you, that's a different story. You could make a case there, but I don't want to see that. I want to trade out of that and let somebody else come get Maui Noah and let us get our defense settled. And that's like Forrest Gump. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for it. I can't wait. I love draft season. I'm excited to do our first mock draft. I think we'll have that coming up sometime soon. Like to get a couple of them in before actual draft day. But look, man, it's getting closer and closer. I feel like time's going by really slow. At the same time, it can't go fast enough. So I'm just excited to get to the night.
And next week we'll do wide receivers. Those are a little bit more fun to do. Next week we'll do wide receivers. And who knows what news will break between now and then. But listen, we appreciate you guys being along for the ride on Dead Jeff Show number 26. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Help us out. We're just two guys who love the Cowboys and we love talking sports. And so just come along for the ride with us. And thank you for being a part of this one. And until next time, peace.